So here, our sign is eating the number, or it's telling us our absolute value is less than. That tells us this is an and compound inequality. And we know there's two options for an and compound inequality. We can either A, copy our first equation and put an and in the middle. And then what we have to do, put x plus 7 again, we copy what's inside the absolute value bars. We change our sign, and we change our 2 to a negative. We can solve both of these separate, but at the end, we need to put them together into a compound inequality because we've already talked about that, right? The easier way, or I wouldn't say the easier way, but the quicker way, and I know that high school students really like to solve things quick, right, is we can actually solve these both at the exact same time by putting them into an and compound inequality. So, again, we discussed this means it's and. All we have to do is we copy what's inside our absolute value bars. We have x plus 7. Copy our sign. Put our 2 there. We've literally just copy and pasted this equation and moved it here, right? Now, instead of writing 2 different equations, flipping our sign and changing this to opposite, we can actually copy this sign and put it right here and change our 2 to the opposite. What's the opposite of a positive 2? It's a negative 2. Now we can solve them both at the same time. We've kind of already talked about this, right? All we have to do is get x by itself in the middle. Now the only way to get x by itself is removing this positive 7, and in order to cancel out a positive 7, we have to subtract 7, make it 0, right? So we subtract 7 from both sides. And now our x by itself in the middle, because this cancels out. Let's go ahead and keep our signs the same. Again, we only switch our signs around when we are multiplying or dividing by a negative number. So let's start over here. Negative 2 minus 7 is negative 9. Over here, 2 minus 7 is negative 5. This is our answer, right? Now, if you want to split it up into 2, you'll get this exact same answer. It just kind of depends on what you want to do. If you want to split it up into 2 equations, I'm totally fine with that, remember. I just want to show you guys the one that takes the least amount of steps. So, now we're here. We can graph it. We talked about graphing before. You need at least 5 numbers in my class, as long as they go in the correct order. So, these 2 inequalities tell us whether we have an open or a closed circle. We know that that line underneath tells us that our number's also included, which means we have to have a closed circle on both the negative 9 and the negative 5. So let's make it happen. We have a closed circle on the negative 9. We have a closed circle on the negative 5. Okay? Let's graph this inequality first. X is less than or equal to a negative 5. So we have 2 options here. Again, you can either know that the variable is on the left side, which tells us we can just copy our arrow and have it point left. Or we also know that when our sign is eating the number, that tells us our variable is less, and less is always left, right? So our negative 5 will be pointing left. Now, this matches what an and inequality graph is going to be. We just have to make sure that our negative 9 is also going to the right so they meet in the middle.